I didn't look back as I ran, faster than my legs could carry me. My heart pounded violently, a mix of anger, humiliation, and heartbreak, fueling my every step. By the time I reached the dormitory, I had made up my mind to confront Signor Maria. I wasn't sure what I'd say, but I knew I couldn't let it slide. I headed to Yellow House, breathless and trembling, scanning for her. And then I saw her walking out of the hostel, hand in hand with Yvonne, her new babe. I froze on the spot. Signor Maria noticed me almost immediately, and our eyes locked. For a second, she looked startled, but she quickly masked it with a cool expression. "Why are you crying?" she asked, her voice casual, as if nothing had happened. So, so this is it, right? I yelled, my voice breaking. My words seemed to echo, and I could already see a few curious heads turning in our direction. "What are you talking about?" she replied, her tone still calm, but I noticed her hand slip from Yvonne's. "Why her?" I screamed, louder this time. The anger, the pain, it all came pouring out in a way I couldn't control. Tears spilled freely down my face as I stood there, unable to stop myself. "Why her, Maria? Was I not enough?" A small crowd began to gather around us, murmurs growing as students tried to piece together what was happening. Signor Maria's eyes darted nervously, taking in the scene. Her calm composure wavered for the first time, and I could see the fear creeping in. "Go to class, we'll talk later," she said, turning to Yvonne. "Just go, I'll meet you soon." Yvonne hesitated, glancing at me, then back at Maria. Finally, she nodded and hurried off, leaving us standing there amidst the growing audience. As soon as Yvonne was out of sight, Signor Maria turned back to me, her expression dark. "Are you mad upstairs?" she hissed, her voice low but venomous. "Who do you think you are talking to like that?" "I hate you!" I screamed at the top of my lungs, no longer caring who was watching. My chest heaved with every word. Signor Maria flinched, but only for a moment. Her face hardened. "You're embarrassing yourself, Ruth. Walk away." But I didn't. Instead, I spat through gritted teeth. "You made me believe I mattered to you." She opened her mouth as if to reply, but stopped herself. Her eyes flickered with something. Regret, maybe, or guilt. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared. I turned abruptly, storming off toward the classrooms. The murmurs followed me, students whispering behind cupped hands, piecing together what had just unfolded. I didn't care. All I wanted was to get away. Days passed, but the weight of what had happened refused to leave me. I kept to myself, avoiding everyone, including Esther. She had tried to speak to me, her tone laced with concern. but I brushed her off every time. I couldn't face her, not when I was sure she had figured it all out. That I wasn't just Senior Maria's babe, but that I was attracted to her in ways I dreaded admitting, even to myself. The guilt, the shame, the anger, it all ate at me. In class, the Christian religious studies teacher droned on, his words blurring into background noise. I stared at him absent mindedly, only snapping out of my thoughts when I noticed how gaunt he looked. His cough, too, seemed worse. I sighed and looked away, my mind wandering back to Maria. Without her protection, I had returned to the life of a typical SS1 student, running errands for seniors and enduring the same bullying I thought I had escaped. The loss of her attention hurt more than the chores, though. There were moments when I'd catch myself thinking about her, about the way she held my hand, the way she looked at me, and I'd quickly push those thoughts away, desperate to salvage what was left of my pride. Valentine's Day loomed on the horizon, and the school buzzed with anticipation. Everywhere I turned, students whispered about their boyfriends from the neighboring boys' boarding school. Some bragged about the gifts they were expecting. Others giggled over rumors of boys planning to scale the fence to sneak into the school. For the blokes and babes, it was a day of grand gestures. Secret "will you be my Val" letters slipped between fingers, and relationships were put on display. But for me, the day loomed like a dark cloud. I dreaded it. Rumors began to swell about stolen belongings, money, snacks, even clothes, all in preparation for the big day. Valentine's hustle, they called it. I sighed as I walked through the dormitory, the chatter around me blending into a dull hum. Valentine's Day was for people like Senior Maria and Yvonne now, not me. I soon sighted Senior Peace kneeling some girls down and shouting at them by the door of my hostel. My heart sank instantly. I quickly retraced my steps, turning back to leave. Too late. Madam, and where do you think you are going to? Come and join your colleagues. Senior Peace backed, her voice cutting through the humid afternoon air like a blade. I froze mid-step, then turned reluctantly, lowering my gaze as I joined my colleagues, as she had put it, kneeling down on the rough, sandy ground. Oya, you people should start confessing, oh, she commanded, pacing back and forth like a predator circling its prey. Confessing what? I whispered to Vera, my roommate who knelt beside me. She said somebody stole the money she hid in her box. Vera whispered back, her voice barely audible over the sound of Senior Peace's sandals slapping the floor. I frowned, shaking my head slightly. Oh, now wow. Why are people stealing like this now? Big mistake. Senior Pieces' eyes darted to me like a hawk spotting its next meal. Oh, so I'm talking, and some people are busy having their own meeting. As in, I'm talking. So what I'm saying here is rubbish, Abby? She stomped toward me. I swallowed hard, keeping my gaze fixed on the ground. In fact, I feel like slapping someone. My hand is itching, oh. My hand is itching me, she said, her tone venomous. She stopped right in front of me. My heartbeat quickened. Why does this girl hate me so much? I closed my eyes, bracing for impact, expecting the sting of her palm across my cheek. Smack! The sound echoed, but the pain didn't come. I opened my eyes to see Vera clutching her face, tears welling in her eyes. So I am talking, and you are there whispering to her. You will tell me today what you were saying to her, Senior Peace shouted at Vera, her eyes narrowing into slits. I, I wasn't, Vera stammered, her voice cracking. Shut up! You think I'm playing with you? Senior Peace snapped, towering over her like a storm cloud about to unleash. Vera bit her lip, holding back tears. I wanted to defend her, but my words caught in my throat. After minutes of intimidation and yelling, Senior Peace finally sighed in frustration. She seemed to realize kneeling us down wasn't yielding results. Useless people, she muttered, glancing at her watch. All of you, carry your dirty selves and go for afternoon prep. I give you people till the count of 10 to change and leave this hostel. She stormed to the door, her voice already starting the countdown. 1, 2, 3. If there's anything boarding school taught me, it's speed. I shot to my feet, racing to my corner to grab my prep wear. Clothes were flying everywhere as my hostel mates scrambled to obey her command. 8, 9. I sprinted toward the exit, one of the first to be ready. Just as I stepped out, Senior Peace's voice froze me in my tracks. You, wait behind, she said, pointing at me with a sly smile. I turned, my heart sinking again. What does this one want with me now? Senior Peace continued counting as I stood to the side, watching the unlucky ones who didn't make it in time. They stretched out their hands reluctantly, wincing as she caned them before letting them go. When the last girl scampered off, Senior Peace turned to me. "Ehen, my dear," she said, her tone suddenly sickeningly sweet. Who is your dear? I thought bitterly. Before I could react, she slung her arm over my shoulder. I stiffened, feeling the weight of her touch. Follow me, she said, leading me into her own hostel room. What is doing this one? I thought, my anxiety climbing with each step. Inside her room, she gestured for me to sit on one of the beds. I stayed standing, my hands resting by my sides. There's something that has been on my mind lately, she began, flashing me an unsettling smile. What is that? I asked, my voice shaky. She sat on the bed, crossing her legs casually, as though we were old friends. I know I haven't been so good to you in this school, she said, tilting her head slightly. I nearly scoffed. No kidding. Gave me my first injury, mocked at me. But I heard something that made me think. She leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. I heard you and Maria had a fight and broke up. Her words hit me like a slap. My chest tightened. What is this one trying to say? So I was wondering, she continued, her smile growing wider. If you would like to be my babe, just to make her jealous. I stared at her, utterly dumbfounded. Her smile didn't waver. I'm serious. I know how much you like her, and what she's doing to you is unfair. Plus, me and her, we have a small issue, and I need your help to punish Maria. I blinked, trying to process her audacity. I don't want to do that, I said firmly, shaking my head. You have to, she pressed, her tone sharpening. She stole Yvonne from me. I met Yvonne first. I nearly laughed. You don't strike me as a bloke. For one, you don't dress like it. She smiled, unfazed. Not all of us like to be labeled. If I dressed like one, then I'll draw attention to myself. I shook my head again, still incredulous. How will being your babe help you exact revenge on Signor Maria? Her smile turned sly. I know she likes you. When she sees you with me, she'll get jealous and want you back. And I'll have the opportunity to get my Yvonne back. You'll be happy. I'll be happy. Her words hung in the air. For a brief moment, I considered it. Plus, she added, leaning closer, remember I'm a prefect. I'm in SS3. I can protect you from other seniors. Make your life in this school bearable again. That part stung. She knew exactly how miserable I was. I just need Yvonne back. That is all, she said, her voice softening. I lowered my head, hating myself for even entertaining her idea. Fine, I muttered, but only to make her jealous. As I walked toward the classroom later, my thoughts raced. What have I gotten myself into? Then I saw them. Under the mango tree stood Yvonne and Signor Maria. Yvonne was smiling shyly as she handed Maria what I assumed was her Valentine's Day gift. My heart thudded painfully as Maria unwrapped the box, revealing colorful waist beads. Yvonne pulled out another pair. Matching waist beads? I hissed under my breath, my cheeks burning with anger, jealousy, and everything in between. Lame gift, I whispered to myself, though my voice trembled. I still remember the following day. like it was yesterday. The day no lady in SS1B arm of Orange Girls College would ever forget. We were in class having our lectures. Mr. Simon, our Christian religious studies teacher, sat slouched at his desk. His once vibrant voice had dulled over the past few weeks, and his frame looked thinner with each passing day. Today, he seemed even more gaunt than usual. His water bottle was never far from his grasp, and he sipped from it now and then, clearing his throat as he did. All right, Miriam, read Matthew chapter 5. Start from the Sermon on the Mount, he said weakly, rubbing his temples. Miriam, always eager to impress, stood up and adjusted her uniform. Yes, sir. She cleared her throat and began in a steady tone, her voice carrying through the classroom. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of boredom pressing against my eyelids. We had heard this passage countless times before. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the pure in heart. I closed my eyes, letting the familiar rhythm of the words wash over me like a lullaby. But then Miriam's voice wavered as she reached Matthew 7, verse 21. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father. A sharp, rasping cough interrupted her. I opened my eyes, startled. Mr. Simon was clutching his chest, coughing so violently that his chair screeched back against the floor as he tried to steady himself. Sir, sir, Miriam exclaimed, dropping the Bible as she rushed forward. The classroom erupted into chaos. Chairs scraped against the floor as students jumped to their feet. I froze, my pulse hammering in my ears. Somebody get help! Veronica shouted from the back of the class. Sir, are you okay? Miriam asked, her hands trembling as she hovered near him. Mr. Simon waved her off weakly, trying to speak, but all that came out was a guttural wheeze. His water bottle slipped from his hand, spilling onto the floor. I bolted toward the door, along with two others, the corridor a blur as my heart pounded in fear. When we returned minutes later with the school nurse and another teacher, the scene had taken an even darker turn. Mr. Simon had slumped to the floor, his eyes half closed, his chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. The nurse bent over him, her voice calm but firm as she checked for a pulse. Lift him carefully. We need to get him to the hospital immediately, she instructed the teachers who had gathered. As they carried him out, the classroom fell into a stunned silence. No one dared to speak. Later that evening, the news spread like wildfire. Mr. Simon had passed away in the hospital. It didn't end there. Whispers followed, growing darker with each retelling. "Did you hear?" Miriam whispered to a group of us during dinner. "They said he had AIDS." I froze, my spoon hovering mid-air. "Who told you that?" Veronica asked, her eyes wide with shock. "It's true," Miriam insisted, leaning in closer. "One of the nurses told her friend, and her friend told one of the seniors. They said he gave it to his wife too, and she's breastfeeding their baby." The table fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in like stones in water. "Are you serious?" I finally managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Miriam nodded solemnly. "It's so disturbing. Imagine." That night, the dormitory was unusually quiet. Even the usual chatter and laughter among the girls were absent. The news of Mr. Simon's death and the whispers surrounding it had cast a heavy shadow over the school. As I lay in my bunk, staring at the dark ceiling, I couldn't shake the image of him clutching his chest, his face twisted in pain. The thought of his wife and child haunted me even more. Life felt fragile, and the weight of it pressed against my chest, leaving me restless. Valentine's Day finally arrived. It was on a Saturday. The morning air was unusually still, as though the world had paused in mourning. The sudden death of Mr. Simon, our Christian religious studies teacher, still lingered heavily on everyone's minds. By mid-morning, the chapel was filled with students, each taking their place quietly on the polished wooden pews for his service of songs. I sat with Nancy, who fidgeted nervously beside me. The soft notes of the piano broke the silence, and soon the choir began to sing "Nearer, My God, to Thee." Their voices rose and fell, filling the space with a hauntingly beautiful melody that only deepened the weight in my chest. Nancy nudged me. "Are you okay?" I nodded, but my gaze wandered to the entrance just as Senior Maria and Yvonne walked in hand. My chest tightened, as if someone had reached inside me and squeezed my heart. They seemed so close. I clenched my fists, trying not to let my emotions show. Where is Senior Peace? I wondered. What had happened to our make them jealous plan? The service began, and soon after, I felt a light tap on my shoulder. I turned to find Senior Peace standing behind me, her expression cool and confident. "Nancy, find another seat," she said softly but firmly. Nancy hesitated, glancing between us. But when Senior Peace raised an eyebrow, Nancy quickly got up and moved a few rows away. Senior Peace slid into the seat beside me. Her perfume, subtle but intoxicating. She didn't say anything at first, just sat there, her posture relaxed, her gaze fixed on the choir. Minutes passed before she leaned in, her lips brushing against my ear. Put your arm around my shoulder and laugh. What? Inside the chapel? I whispered, startled. Just do it, she hissed, her voice low but insistent. I hesitated for a moment, then obeyed, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. She tilted her head slightly, as though whispering something funny, and I forced a soft laugh. Good, she murmured, her lips curving into a satisfied smile. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Signor Maria's head turn. Her gaze landed on us, sharp and deliberate. For a moment, our eyes locked, and I felt a jolt of something. Anger? Curiosity? I couldn't tell. Her expression was unreadable, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes that made my stomach twist. I quickly turned away, facing the choir again. Now, Senior Peace whispered, her voice barely audible. We are going to leave. Hold my hand when we walk out. After 25 minutes, meet me at the back of the chapel. Dishevel your shirt a bit before you come back in. We'll walk in together, holding hands. My eyes widened. Are you serious? She smirked. Trust me, it'll work. I nodded, my heart pounding. As the next hymn began, Senior Peace stood, pulling me up with her as we walked out of the chapel together. I could feel the weight of Senior Maria's gaze on my back, but I didn't dare look back. Exactly 25 minutes later, I met Senior Peace at the back of the chapel. My shirt slightly untucked, my hair slightly messy. She glanced at me, her eyes flicking over my appearance, and nodded approvingly. Perfect, she said, taking my hand again. We walked back into the chapel, hand in hand, as if nothing had happened. As we slid into the pew, I dared to steal a glance at Signor Maria. Her face was a storm cloud. Her jaw tightened, her brows furrowed, and her grip on Yvonne's hand seemed to falter for a split second. It was subtle, but I noticed. A small, victorious smile tugged at my lips as I turned back to face the choir. That night was social night, a Saturday night and Valentine's Day all rolled into one. The air was nothing like the somber morning we had spent in the chapel. Afro beats pumped loudly from the speakers, filling the atmosphere with excitement and energy. Girls laughed and shouted as they organized themselves into groups, playing games or cheering on their classmates in drama performances, singing competitions, and freestyle rap battles. Still, amidst all the noise and chaos, I couldn't find Signor Maria or Yvonne. My eyes scanned the crowd over and over, searching. Where are they? I thought. The absence of their familiar faces left me restless. This social night wasn't like any other. It was Valentine's night, which made it feel illicit. The school had sent invigilators to monitor the event, as usual, ensuring students didn't lose control. Yet, as always, rules were made to be broken. Boys from neighboring schools had somehow scaled the fences, their confident swagger drawing whispers and giggles from the girls. Couples disappeared into the shadows, sneaking off to corners of the school compound to do only God knows what. The event officially ran from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., with the invigilators leaving once the final prayer was said. But everyone knew that the real party only began after they left. If by some misfortune the invigilators decided to linger past their time, the students had a time-tested plan. They would turn off the lights and unleash chaos, giving the teachers what was infamously called GB, general beating. They'd simply turn off the lights and descend on the teachers with quick, anonymous slaps and shoves. It was chaos, and it happened before, long before my time. A whole graduating set had once been deported for such behavior, forced to become day students for the rest of their time in school. Yet, the threat of punishment hadn't stopped the tradition. As expected, the moment the invigilators left, the atmosphere shifted. The lights were cut, leaving the hall in semi-darkness. The godly students retreated to the hostel, while the rest of us stayed to revel in the real fun. I had lost Senior Peace, whom I had come with, and my eyes continued scanning the room for you know who. My heart skipped when I felt someone tap my shoulder. Trying to make me jealous, a familiar voice said. I turned around and saw Senior Maria. Her breath hit me immediately, laced with the unmistakable scent of alcohol. My mind raced. Where did she even get alcohol from? Before I could respond, Senior Peace returned, appearing out of nowhere and grabbing my hand. She's mine, she said firmly, pulling me away. Senior Maria smirked, but didn't follow, letting Peace drag me into the thick of the crowd. Just then, the DJ switched tracks and a familiar beat began to play. It was Soundtrack by Mehdi. The first notes sent the crowd into a frenzy. Students screamed in excitement, bodies surging toward the makeshift dance floor. Pairs formed instantly, the mood growing wilder by the second. Senior Peace leaned into me, her lips brushing against my ear. I'm going to dance rock you now. Just close your eyes and pretend you are having the time of your life. I hesitated but nodded, closing my eyes as she instructed. Peace pulled me closer, her hands on my hips, guiding me to the rhythm of the music. I tried to focus, to lose myself in the moment. But then my eyes opened, and there they were, Signor Maria and Yvonne. They stood just a few feet away, their bodies pressed close as they danced in sync to the music. Signor Maria's hands were firm on Yvonne's waist, and Yvonne leaned into her like she was the only person in the world. I clenched my fists, trying to focus on Senior Peace, but my gaze kept slipping back to them. Focus, Senior Peace whispered sharply, noticing my distraction. She grabbed my hips, pulling me closer. Don't let her win. I nodded and let myself move more freely, matching Senior Peace's pace as we danced. But my chest burned when I saw Yvonne suddenly glance at me. Her expression was unreadable, but she didn't look away. Instead, she leaned back against Signor Maria, moving with more intensity, as if trying to outdo us. The music swelled, and the crowd around us grew louder, but my focus remained on Signor Maria and Yvonne. Signor Maria's movements grew more deliberate, more exaggerated, and then, without warning, she tilted Yvonne's chin up. I froze. It happened so fast that I almost didn't believe it. Signor Maria kissed Yvonne right there in front of everyone. Her lips pressed firmly against Yvonne's as they clung to each other like no one else existed. It wasn't subtle, it was deliberate and passionate. My body went cold. No, I whispered, my voice barely audible over the music. My hands trembled as I stumbled back, the air suddenly too thick to breathe. Hey, Peace called after me, but I couldn't stay. I turned and bolted, pushing past the crowd and out of the hall. The cool night air hit my face, but it did little to calm the storm inside me. My chest heaved as I leaned against the wall, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill. Just then, Signor Maria approached me. Her steps were unsteady, the moonlight casting faint shadows on her flushed face. She tried to hold my arm, but I pulled away. I can't stand you and your humiliation anymore, I said, my voice breaking as tears rolled down my cheeks. The night air felt colder than usual, or maybe it was my heart shutting her out. Signor Maria tilted her head slightly, her lips curling into a faint, almost mocking smile. Humiliation? Is that what this is about? I saw you with Peace earlier today. You both seemed to have enjoyed yourselves. Or was that also just a ploy to get at me? I wiped my tears furiously and glared at her. Nothing, and I mean nothing, can be as disgusting as you sleeping with Yvonne. I spat, trying to shrug off her grip. Her smile vanished. Her expression hardened, but her eyes held a glimpse of something dangerous, almost calculating. So, You do have feelings for me after all. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. My breath hitched. What? She took a step closer, her fingers brushing my wrist. Her proximity made my stomach churn and my pulse race all at once. Admit it, she said, leaning in slightly. Her voice was laced with something dark, alluring, and irresistible. You wouldn't be this upset if you didn't care. Am I wrong? You are drunk, Signor Maria, I said, trying to sound firm. But my voice betrayed me, shaky and weak. She ignored my words, her lips curving into a smirk. You refused me the last time, but tonight she leaned even closer, her breath warm against my skin. Tonight, you won't. Her lips brushed against mine, tentative at first. The faint scent of alcohol lingered between us, but her touch made my knees weak. I want you, she whispered against my lips, her voice husky and low. I really want you. My heart raced. I tried to speak, but no words came out. She cupped my face, her hands trembling ever so slightly. You won't reject me this time, will you? I shook my head slowly, my body betraying every ounce of logic screaming at me to stop. My tears were still fresh, but her closeness drowned out everything else. She leaned in again, this time pressing her lips to mine with fervor. The world around us seemed to fade as she pulled me closer. My emotions were a tangled mess: anger, hurt, desire, all colliding in a single heated moment. She led me to the back of the building, her hand gripping mine tightly as if she were afraid I'd change my mind. The spot she found was hidden, shadowed by the building, and cloaked in silence, save for our heavy breaths. We fell into each other's arms, giving in to the emotions that had been building for so long. The after social night party soon started drawing to an end, and students began returning to the hostel. As they streamed in, the atmosphere felt different, tense. Whispers floated through the air, rising above the usual chatter. My money! Someone cried, her voice breaking. My provisions, they are gone! Another shouted, her face etched with panic. My clothes! Who would steal my clothes? Wailed a girl clutching her open box. The murmurs grew louder as more students discovered missing items. Some were crying openly, while others stared in disbelief. The thief did full operation this night, one of the girls said bitterly, her voice loud enough to be heard over the chaos. Na wow, oh, this is serious oh, another girl exclaimed, shaking her head as she checked her own box and sighed in despair. More students arrived, confused by the commotion. What's going on? Someone asked. Thief, oh, a girl replied, her eyes wide. Almost everybody's things are missing. Money, provisions, clothes, everything. Hearing this, I felt my heart skip a beat. My steps quickened as I pushed past the crowd toward my hostel and corner. Panic set in as I reached for my box and noticed that the padlock was gone. My stomach dropped. No, 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 I muttered, trembling as I knelt before the box. My hands hesitated before lifting the lid. Earlier that day, I had collected 3,000 naira, all my pocket money, from the house mistress after the service of songs for Mr. Simon. If I had known, I would have left the money with her. Why didn't I think of that? I thought, my chest tightening as I flipped open the box. I riffled through my belongings, my fingers shaking as I reached the small zipper compartment where I had hidden the money. My breath caught as I felt the familiar shape of the envelope. I opened it to find the money still intact. Thank God, I whispered, my voice quivering with relief. The tension in my body eased for a moment, but the muffled sobs and angry voices around me quickly brought me back to the present. I stood up and looked around. More students were coming in, and one thing was clear: everyone else had lost something. The ladies from Blue Blocks, the senior dormitory, had gathered outside, their voices rising in frustration. Some were yelling, others crying openly. Mimi and Daniela, two SS2 ladies, stepped forward. "We heard something earlier," Mimi said, her voice shaking slightly. "Yes," Daniela chimed in, nodding. "When we came back from the social night, we heard noises coming from Purple House." "Why didn't you check?" someone asked accusingly. "We did," Daniela snapped, folding her arms defensively. "We told the matron, and she opened the door. But we didn't see anybody." "Maybe the thief ran away when you came," another girl suggested, her brows furrowed. The murmur started again, voices overlapping in heated speculation. "It has to be someone from the hostel." "No, they must have come from outside. How else would they get in?" "The thief must have entered or left through the gutter," one girl said confidently. At that, a small group of us decided to investigate. We walked to the back of the hostel, where the gutter ran parallel to the building. The air was thick with tension as we searched the area. "Nothing here," someone muttered, kicking at the dirt near the gutter. As the others started to head back to the front, and just as I was about to follow, something glinted faintly in the gutter. I stopped in my tracks, my chest tightening. "What's that?" I whispered to no one in particular. I stepped closer, squinting to get a better look. Three tiny pebble-like objects shimmered faintly in the darkness. My heart sank as realization struck me like a blow to the stomach. The pebbles were from colorful waist beads. Waist beads I recognized all too well. My chest tightened and I swallowed hard as the horrifying realization of who the thief might be hit me.